Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the makeup book tag. I was tagged to do this by my friend Sheila over at SL Reads, so go follow her and check out her video. And let's get started. So the first product is primer, and for primer I use this Tarte Poreless primer, this mattifying primer. I love it so far. I just bought it, so it's pretty new. I've only used it a few times, but I really like it so far. So yeah, that's what I use for primer. And the question for this is to pick a book that left a lasting impression. And I have two answers for this. I have a negative lasting impression and a positive one. A book that left a negative lasting impression for me was Allegiant. I really hated it, honestly. The first book in the series was okay, Divergent was alright, and honestly it just went downhill from there. I hated Allegiant. I thought that the ending was bad. I didn't really enjoy the book at all. Up to the ending, let alone the ending, and honestly I just wasn't a big fan of it. And that impression has definitely stuck with me. I've not changed my mind on that. And I honestly don't see myself ever changing my mind on that. So a book that left a positive lasting impression on me was Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I absolutely love this book. I recommend it to everyone. I recommended it to my dad. I recommended it to my grandma. Like, honestly, it was such an entertaining read and it was such a cool idea. I loved how the book took place between two different time periods, so you're still kind of trying to like figure out what happened 10 years ago and what's happening present day. It's definitely kind of keeps you interested. It definitely keeps you trying to figure out what is actually going on. And I really thought that was interesting, and so that definitely left a lasting impression. So the next makeup product is foundation. So for foundation I use Tarte Rainforest of the Sea. And I really love this foundation. I've had a lot of issues finding a good foundation that sits right on my skin because I've got some skin issues, but this one works amazing and I absolutely love it. And the question for foundation is choose your favorite first book in a series. So for this one I'm going with Kerri Maniscalco's Stalking Jack the Ripper. I haven't read Hunting Prince Dracula yet, as I've mentioned before. I'm hoping to get to it soon, but I love this book. I was so intrigued by it. The plot itself wrapped up really nicely, but it still left me wanting more. I wanted more of the characters, I wanted more of the setting, I wanted more of her writing, and so I felt like this is a really good first book in a series because even though the plot of the story wraps up really nicely, you still want to read more. You still want to continue reading books from her. So the next product is concealer. So I don't usually use concealer, but when I do, I use this Urban Decay Naked Skin concealer in the shade Light Warm. Yeah. I don't use it very often. I'm not a huge fan of concealer. I don't like wearing too much stuff caked on my face, so I try to stick with like just foundation and powder, but when I do use concealer, I use this. And the question for this is to pick a character you wish didn't exist. And honestly, I understand why this character exists. He's very necessary for the plot of the books, but I honestly hate him so much, and that's Dimitri from Vampire Academy. The series itself is fine. It's okay. It's not my favorite, and honestly, most of that is because of how much I dislike Dimitri. And his relationship with Rose. I like Rose as a character, but I really dislike Dimitri. I dislike his relationship with Rose. I think he's kind of creepy. He makes me really uncomfortable. I just really didn't like him, and I honestly wish he didn't exist, even though that would mean the books didn't exist, but could you just make him a better character? Could you replace him with someone that is not horrible? So the next product is powder, and for powder I use this Makeup Forever Professional Paris HD powder, the translucent one. Yeah, nothing much to say about that. It's nice. And the question for powder is to pick your favorite last book in a series, and I own this book but I don't feel like grabbing it. So The Raven King by Maggie Stiefvater is my favorite last book in a series. I felt like the plot of it wrapped up so well. I felt like it didn't feel like there was more story to be told. Like, I feel like she could have continued it, but everything that she wanted to get wrapped up and everything that she wanted to happen in the series I felt like happened. But this book also didn't feel like the story ended halfway through. It felt like she was able to have something to say throughout that whole last book, and it didn't get boring at the very end of the book because it should have ended sooner, and I really enjoyed that. I feel like a lot of series, people try to stretch them out too much, and they have more books than they actually have story, and that it gets boring. And I did not feel like that happened at all with this series. So the next question is eyebrows, and for eyebrows I use Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz in the shade medium brown. I really like this. I was using the Brow Definer, the same brand, but the Brow Definer, and I didn't like the tip on it very much. I didn't like the shape of it, and I didn't feel like I was getting very much like product. I couldn't really add any shape to my brows. I could really only fill in what was already there, but with this one I feel like I can definitely add more shape to them, which I really like, and I think this is really nice. So the question for this one is pick a book you think everyone should read, and I have two answers for this one. The first one is Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. It's really sad, but I honestly think that it's so important and it's so real and honest and raw, and I think that everyone should read it. It's an amazing book. I actually made one of my friends when I was in school read it. I was like, Grace, you're reading this, here you go, take it, read it, finish it, and she loved it too. And the other one that I have is The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein, and this is a children's book, and if you haven't read it, then you have not lived, and you need to go pick it up and read it right now, because it's absolutely amazing. It's my favorite children's book. It's always been my favorite children's book. I had a sticker on my computer that had like the tree and the little boy, and I absolutely love it. It's so sweet, and again, it's kind of sad, but like good sad, and yeah, I love it. It's one of my favorites. I love it. So the next question is eyeshadow. So for eyeshadow, I use this Too Faced Sweet Peach palette, and it smells like peaches, and it's amazing, and I love it. Has a bunch of really pretty shades. I think it's really nice. I just got it a couple weeks ago now. And I really love it. I think it's great. I actually use multiple palettes, but this is the one that I've been using the most lately. And the question for eyeshadow is to pick a book with your favorite color on it, and for that one I had to go with Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, this Classic Lines version of it, copy, cover, whatever you want to call it. I love this shade of like blue-green, and I think this cover is so gorgeous. I think the style of it as well, not just the color. This like watercolor style is really pretty. So I actually have more of this line. I have Pride and Prejudice, Emma, and Great Expectations on my bookshelf, and I love them all. I think they're absolutely gorgeous, but this one's my favorite because it's my favorite color. So the next product is eyeliner. So for eyeliner, I use this Tarteist eyeliner. That's all it says on there, but it's really nice. I really like it. It has a pencil tip on this side and a liquid tip on this side. So I have both on. I wear pencil on my tight line and sometimes on my waterline. And then I don't wear liquid eyeliner every day, but sometimes I do. And when I do, I use this, and I love it. It's amazing. And the question for eyeliner is to choose a dark and mysterious read. And for that one, I chose Dracula. I do own it. I didn't really want to have to go looking for it. It's somewhere around here, but I don't know where. So I really love this book. Because of the way that it's written and how old it is, it's not scary. I wouldn't ever classify it as scary, but it definitely has that mysterious, dark aspect to it. It's very interesting. The setting is very dark, and the plot itself is definitely very mysterious. The whole time you're wondering what's actually going on, because it's written in like journal entries, so you definitely like only really know what that one character knows or what a couple character knows. I think it switches perspectives a couple times. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've read it, but you really only know what those people know, so it definitely has that mysterious aspect. The next product is mascara. So for mascara, I use Urban Decay's Perversion. I really love it. I used to use Benefit's They're Real, but I actually like this one better. I think it works really nicely. And the question for mascara is pick a long book. So I have two answers for this, a literal and a figurative. For literal, I have a lot of books that are longer than this one, but I wanted to pick one that I had actually read, and I think this is one of the longest books that I've ever read, and that is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. It was really good. I finished it in, I think, just a couple days. It was really interesting. I really liked it, but it was definitely a very long book. And my other answer for this one is a book that I had to read for school last semester. I read it for my honors course that I was in, and it is History of the Peloponnesian War by Thucydides, and it is horrible. I chose this one figuratively because it felt like it went on forever. I felt like I was never going to finish reading it. We didn't even have to read the whole thing, and it is pretty long. It's almost 700 pages. But I honestly felt like I was just never going to get to the end of the assigned reading because it was slow and boring, and I hated it. So, yeah, figuratively, this book was really long, and it took a really long time for me to read. The next product is highlighter. So I actually use a combination of two things for highlighter. I use this Benefit High Beam on my cheekbones, and then I go over it with an eyeshadow from my Too Faced Totally Cute palette. I use Shooting Star, which is like a shimmery gold eyeshadow. That's what I use for my highlight. I use the combination of the two. And on my around my eyes, for my brow bones and my inner corner, I actually highlight with the lightest shade in whatever palette that I'm using for my eyes, just to make sure that it kind of goes with the rest of my eye look. And the question for this one is, pick a book that brightens your day, and I wanted to go with To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. I love the fake dating trope. I think it's so cute, and so this book definitely like just made me happy when I read it. Not to mention, fun fact, the school that Lara Jean's sister goes to, St. Andrews in Scotland, I got in there and it was my second choice school. I almost went there. It was just right behind the school that I ended up going to. And I'm still thinking after I get my gen eds completed, I may end up transferring there. So, fun fact, that all happened before I read this book, and then I read this book and I was like, wait a second, I almost went there. So that was kind of a fun little thing, but this book just makes me happy. It's so cute and I love it. The next product is lipstick, and I really don't wear lipstick all that often. I am right now for the sake of this video, but I have a 24 days of Christmas, like Advent type calendar full of NYX lipsticks. And so when I do wear lipstick, it's one of those. So it's always a NYX lipstick. So the one that I'm wearing right now is the NYX Liquid Suede in Soft Spoken. And I actually do really like it. I think it's really nice. I just am not a huge fan of lipstick because it's a thing. And the question for this is, pick your favorite book kiss. And I honestly had kind of a hard time answering this one because I don't really think I have a favorite book kiss. But if I did have to choose one, I have to go with Clark and Bellamy from The 100. The quote, "He tasted like joy and joy tasted better on earth," was one of the cutest things that I ever read, and I thought it was adorable and I absolutely loved it. So the next question is blush, and I actually have enough red in my skin, and that foundation's only light coverage, so I don't really wear blush because I don't really need it that much. But I do wear bronzer, so I will replace this question with that. And for bronzer, I use this tiny little sample of Benefit's Hoola bronzer that I have had for probably 3 or 4 years now, and I know that that's bad and I should replace it, but I still have so much product left that why would I do that? So that's what I use for bronzer. And I really obviously like don't wear a whole lot of it, which is why I still have so much of it left. So the question for blush, which I obviously am replacing with bronzer here, is pick a cringeworthy romance. And I have so many of these. I have a lot of answers for this one. But for the sake of this video, I am gonna narrow it down to 3. So the first one is Karou and Akiva from Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I've mentioned this before. I hate it. I hate their relationship. It's so messed up. Like, the fact that spoilers, the fact that she is just a reincarnation of his past love and that's the only reason that they actually care about each other gets on my nerves so much. Akiva has no personality. He has no character whatsoever. Like, I can't connect to him because I don't understand him, and there's nothing about him that really draws me in, which makes me wonder how Karou is so entranced by him and so in love with him if, like, has no personality whatsoever. So I'm not a fan of them. I'm not going to talk about this one too much because I've already mentioned it, but Rose and Dimitri from Vampire Academy, I will always hate it. I hate it. And the last one, which is probably kind of obvious that it's a cringeworthy romance, and I will probably talk about it more than once, is from the only Shakespeare play that I've ever read, and that's Romeo and Juliet. The play itself I love. Don't get me wrong. I think Romeo and Juliet is an amazing play, but it's a tragedy, and I hate when people say, I want a relationship like Romeo and Juliet's, because I'm like, it was a tragedy. They were like 14, they knew each other for 2 days, and then they killed themselves over each other. You want that? Like, who would want that? The play as a tragedy is amazing. If it was meant to be a romance play, then I would hate it. I would be like, what is this? Why am I reading this? It's horrible. But that's not what it's meant to be, and so one of my biggest pet peeves is when people say, oh, I want a relationship like Romeo and Juliet had. And I'm like, no, you really don't. Like, sorry, but that's not, have you actually read the play? Do you actually know what happens to them? Because it's horrible, and it makes me angry. And this play just has so much more to offer than this horrible romance, but people just are so focused on that, and it really, really gets on my nerves. So that's all that I have for this video for the makeup book tag. I tag anybody who wants to do this. It was really fun, and yeah, that's all. Subscribe, like this video, follow my links in the description, and let's be friends.